all to the final day of Huddle Global 2024, the grand celebration of innovation, collaboration, and inspiration. What an incredible journey it has been over the past few days. Together, we have witnessed groundbreaking ideas, thought-provoking discussions, and meaningful connections that have set the stage for a future brimming with opportunities. Today, as we wrap up this incredible event, we have a power-packed lineup in store for you. So stay engaged, make the most of every opportunity, and let's end this event on a high note that resonates far beyond today. Let's begin with our first session. Our speaker for the day is Mr. Arjun Pillai, co-founder and CEO of Docket, a visionary entrepreneur who has successfully led his venture to new heights. He is here to talk about how to prepare yourself for an investor pitch, a key area that every entrepreneur needs to get right if they want to secure funding and make their ideas a reality. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Arjun Pillai to the stage. So please.
Good morning, everybody. First session, you had coffee? Feeling good? How many of you went to bed before 12 o'clock yesterday night? Okay, very few hands. How many of you went to bed after 12 o'clock yesterday? There you go. The conference is a success. Fun fact, this image of mine is actually AI generated because I've never been able to smile like that for a headshot. I know that in the app, you see Vinod was supposed to take the session, and Vinod has a flight to catch, so I'm kind of filling in. Just to set a very brief context so that you understand where I'm coming from, Docket is my third company. I've done 2 other companies in the past. I've bootstrapped for 2.5 years. I've raised non-equity rounds like grants. I've done equity rounds both as angel, seed. First company I raised $380,000, exited. Second company I raised 420K first round, 380K second round, 1.9 million seed round, and then exited. And this company, Docket, started 15 months back, started with a 5.3 million seed round and 15 million Series A that happened in June of this year. So that's my fundraising experience. I just wanted to make sure that I set that context so you know where I'm coming from. If you ask me Series B, Series C, Series G questions, I have not done it. But the early stage, I have done it. I'm also an investor in about 24 or 25 startups, the first check or the second check. I'm also an LP in about 4 funds, 2 in the US and 2 in India. That's my fundraising experience. Now, before we start, I wanted to understand the next 30 minutes, how can it be super useful for you? So in the next 2 minutes, if you can tell me the top questions that you have in mind when you are thinking about a fundraise process, I'll be able to kind of use that to drive the discussion. I obviously have a few thoughts that I want to kind of take and talk about, but what is the burning question that you have in your mind? Yep. How to tell the story to an investor, okay? What else? Yeah?
From 1 to 100, but to move to 1 to 2, 2 to 3, that's also difficult.
Moving to 1 to 2 from an investment raising standpoint?
From the startup to raise investment.
Okay. Okay, so that I would probably put that as the seed investment, you know, something like a 2 million or like a 3 million kind of an investment. Okay, fair. What else? Sure. Based on the investor, do you change your narrative?
Because the product is the same, but the investor might see it from a different perspective.
Yep, okay. Go for it.
What we have seen is many of the founders don't know how much to dilute in the early stages,
Okay.
which is a very important thing. So would
Sure.
like to hear from, based on your experience in
Sure.
at least in
What
the
is the
company.
benchmark?
Yeah.
Sounds good.
What is the, I know there is no one answer for all
Sure.
this, but.
Thumb rules.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Sounds good.
I think that will help many of the founders who are raising early rounds.
Perfect. Yeah.
Some of the major
What did I do with the 50 versions of my pitch deck?
wrong things that you did.
Yeah, there are enough. That 30 minutes is not enough, but I'll try.
Major ones will do.
Yeah. What else? Hmm. Yeah. Sure. We can take that as a slightly separate thing. Once I am done, just ask this again and I can answer. Maybe it will come up also.
So,
Solo co-founder versus multiple co-founders. Okay. Got it. So let me
one question here.
Okay.
Yeah, if there is an option to go with a proof of concept and raise little amount of money.
What stage can you really raise the money? Can you do
and
it in proof
the
of?
second would be you bootstrap and early revenue stage you try to go. So which would be a better option?
Perfect. Okay. So this is pretty good. So let me set some stage, right? I have a few thoughts here. I will keep talking about that plus the questions. If I'm not touching on any of the questions that you are saying, just keep, pause me, say that, hey, you're not answering my question. So the first thing to understand is, as a company, the first set of investments, you can call it as angel. The first round typically is what you call as the 3F rounds, right? Friends, family, and fools, right? And fools is not necessarily a disrespectful term. It just means that there might be ability for you to raise money from people who are not so much into startups. That's all it means. But friends, family, and fools is the first round typically. And that round can be 50K, 100K, 150K, 200K. Don't take more money from than that. If you take more money, these people don't know startups that well. So, it could be risky for you. So just be careful. The next round can be an angel. An angel is a person who understands startups a little bit better, and they are willing to kind of write that angel check for you. Somebody was telling yesterday, angel is 5 letters, so is devil. So, be careful who you take money from. That is a general advice for all rounds. So the angel will come. Then comes the pre-seed, seed, pre-series A, series A, then series B, series C, all the way to series Z. But there's no hard and fast rule in terms of what is a seed, what is a pre-seed, what is a pre-series A. You can call it whatever. It does not matter at all what you call for a round. So from a round perspective, you need to understand what is the round that you are kind of raising. And the reason is, and this goes to one of the questions, why every investor has a thesis behind. Whether it is a fund, even for angels, they have thesis behind. So there are funds that are saying that I will invest only in healthcare companies, right? If they are a healthcare related thing, they won't invest in manufacturing. Or if they are AI first funds, then they wouldn't invest in. So you need to understand the thesis first, and then every fund or every investor also has a check size that they are comfortable writing. So depending on who you talk to, an angel might be writing like a 50K. If they are an HNI, they can probably write $1 million or a $2 million. But an angel typically is a 50K or a 100K kind of a check. If you go to a fund, the best thumb rule that you can focus on is the sweet spot check size of a fund is 2% of the fund size. When you talk to a fund, your question is, what is your fund size? And they'll say, it is $20 million. Okay, if it is $20 million, 2% of that, which is how much? I have to do the math now. 0.2, 200K or 400K? 400K? Yeah, okay. So 400K is kind of their sweet spot. They can come down to 250K, they can probably go up to 800K, but that 400K is their check size. So if you go to them and say, hey, I need a $2 million round, they can only follow, they cannot lead. Then you have to find a 1.5 million kind of a lead investor and then kind of tag this investor along. One mistake that I did was, in my first company, I went through 77 pitches to get a $380,000 into the company. And the first 65, I got no's. And that was primarily because I was talking to all these Series A, Series B VCs and asking for 200K in money, which they can never do. But they will never tell that to you. They'll keep taking meetings because that's their job, right? One of the things that I always observe, especially for first-time founders, right? This is a mindset change that you have to make. When you start fundraising, you kind of you put the investor on the pedestal, right? You are like, okay, this is the guy with the money, and I am kind of asking for money. So you are kind of with the underdog, and he or she is on the pedestal, right? That is a very wrong way of looking at it. The first mind shift that you have to make is you are on the same side of the table. or you are on the same table. And here is why. What is the job of an investor? Job is to actually invest in founders, right? So basically they are doing their job. What is your job? It is actually to grow your business, right? So when they are meeting you, they are doing their job. When you are meeting them, you are not doing your job. It's part of your job, but it's not your core job, which means your time is actually at the premium, right? So that mind shift is very, very, very critical, that you have to pull the person from the pedestal down to the table. Respectfully, we are on the same page. I am your customer. You need me as much as I need you. And I am not offering a charity. I am offering you an opportunity to invest in my company, right? And it is my company, so I have rules also. Just like you have your thesis, I have rules also, right? I will also qualify you, just like you are qualifying me. Just because you are going to put money in me doesn't mean I'll take money from you, right? So you make all these changes in your head. What happens is it goes across that way to the investor also. The investor, the thing about investor is the more you say you don't want to raise money, the more they will put money. Like ask for advice, you get money. Ask for money, you get advice. Right? You will observe this as you go along. So just make sure that, I'm sure, also did this mistake, right? First time founder, we always put them on the pedestal. And then over a period of time, we realized that that is not the case. Once you pull the power back, your fundraising will start becoming way more easier. What is the best time to fundraise? There's no best time to fundraise. There are worst time to fundraise, but there's no best time to fundraise. It completely depends on the confidence of the CEO. Typically, although all co-founders are equally invested in the company, it is the typical job of a CEO to go out there and raise the money. So if the CEO feels confident that he or she can raise the round, yes, you can raise the round, right? Just go out and raise. The worst time to raise money is about this time, right? November end to December end is the worst time to raise money because everybody is on vacation. What you need to drive a fundraising process is what you call as FOMO, fear of missing out. Let me kind of do a role play so that you understand how a fundraising process, and just follow along carefully. Let me take somebody as an investor here. Is there an actual investor here? Okay, perfect. So let me take you, sir, as the. So I'm doing a company. Okay, I'm a founder, and let me try to come to you. Let's imagine that you and I are talking, and you are at some level interested in the company, right? So I'm going to ask you, hey, is there a microphone that he can take? I don't know how this is going to go, by the way.
Yeah, go ahead.
Awesome. So thanks a lot for the time. How did you find the presentation?
Yeah, amazing, man. You did a great job.
Okay. So what is your typical check sizes in companies like us?
I generally do 500K ticks.
500K. Okay. And when you look at, based on everything that you have seen so far, do you think that there is a potential opportunity for us to engage here?
I had to do deep dive, so it
Deep
takes some
dive.
time. You know, I can't do a over-call commitment or a in-person
Sure.
first meeting commitment.
Of course, of course. Yeah, but basically what you're saying is you really like the presentation.
Yeah, I want to go forward probably.
Yeah, okay. So there is some interest here. If everything else aligns and if I'm able to find a good lead investor, you would be willing to put a 500K. The reason I'm asking is I also want to make sure I have enough room for you in my round.
Yeah, sure. I mean, if you're raising more than a 500K, of course, money is not enough.
Yeah.
So, yeah, makes sense.
Perfect. So let me pause the role play for a second. What happened here is I mirrored everything that he was telling, and I was kind of putting him in a position with a bunch of outs. So I asked him, hey, did you like the presentation? You're like, no investor will say, no, you suck. Nobody will say that, right? Everybody will say, yeah, it was good. There are a few things here and there. If everything else, if all the way I asked that question, if all the clauses agree, align, and if I am able to find a lead investor, you are saying that potentially you can put 500K into the company. And he's like, yeah, I can do that, right? So what now I got is a soft commit. Not a hard commit, I got a soft commit. Now what I do is I'll go to the next investor and say, sir, how's it going? I have a soft commit of 500K. I'm raising 2 million, right? Be very careful. It is not telling lies. If that investor calls this investor, he should be saying, yeah, that sounded interesting, and there is some interest from my side. That has to happen. Otherwise, you are lying. Don't lie. Lying is the worst thing across the world, but lying during a fundraising process is even worse because many VCs know each other, so don't do that. But by mirroring it back to them and making sure you put them on the spot, you are basically getting a soft commit. By getting multiple soft commits, the fundraise, you needed 2 million, you now got 500K from there, 250K from here, now I am 40% committed to my fundraise. So that is the fear of missing out. When I am getting more and more soft commits, the other people are like, man, this guy went from 0 to 40% in 2 weeks. Now he's going to go from 40 to 60 very quickly. I need to be in. So that, and investors work in herd mentality, H-E-R-D, herd mentality, right? So once you have one person coming in, you have the second person. Once the second person is in, the third person is in. All of my rounds so far, every single round that I have done so far, they have been oversubscribed. There has been no round that I have done where I did not have enough money. I always had more money, and I was like, okay, that's all I can take, that's it. The reason being that herd mentality is very, very big in investor community. So once you crack the first set of soft commits, you will be able to get to the next. Now the next piece about investing is, or investment raising is, how much would you be raising, ideal case? How much would you want to raise now if you had a chance? 2 million, 2.5 million. Okay, what else? 1 million. You guys need to aspire a little bit more, Yeah, the runway has to be 32 months. There is very clear data now. People say it is 24 months. It is not. Between one fundraise to the next fundraise, an average startup is taking 32 months. So whatever you are raising, it has to retain you for 32 to 36 months. Right? When you say 32 months, the fundraise is happening between the one round to the next round, you have to start raising at 25th month for you to close it at the 32 month because it takes time for you to close. So you need to have at least 32 months of runway when you are raising a round. So, and this is actually a very good point. I see a lot of companies saying, I need 50 lakhs to just get this out. Getting this out is 2 months thing, right? Which means that the moment you raise this 50 lakhs, you are back on the ground because you have to now raise again. Third month, you still have to run the company. So never do that. You need to have enough runway. Raising anything less than 12 months of runway is actually very bad because you have to go back to raising the moment that money is in your bank. And as a CEO, it takes a lot out of you, both as stress, both as time, all of that. Right? So if you want to raise $2 or $2.5 million, the first thing to understand is you need a lead that puts in at least 50% of that check. So if you want to raise 2 million, you need a lead who puts in at least 750K, ideally $1 million. So now the question is, who can put $1 million? Now do the 2% math. The people who can put $1 million are the people who have raised more than $50 million of the fund size. Now your overall thing came down from whatever, 200 investors that you need to talk to, 20 investors. So suddenly your ICP targeting came down. So you need to convince one of these 20 people for you to have a fundraise. So all of your focus is to get one out of this 20. The rest of the conversation you will still have. You will meet me, you will be like, do you want to put money, right? You will keep talking to random people. But the key is to close one person, the lead investor, with a FOMO. You use like a 3 weeks time, 4 weeks time, get everybody to the table at that point in time and make sure that you move the process so fast that you get that commit. Once you get that commit, the rest of the things will fall into place very quickly because the company that is investing, the fund that is investing $1 million in you, they will be able to bring a couple of their friends to put another 250, 300. So you're already at 1.3. There might be a couple of your friends who will put 100K, 1.4, 1.5. Whether you get 2 million, 1.8 does not matter. Go for it. Right? So that is how, so the focusing on the lead investor is very critical. So getting a lot of angels won't close your round. That's another thing that I see. How much to raise? We talked about it, right? 32 months of runway. And by the way, the thumb rule is do all of your math. Imagine that you come up to, I need $1 million to run for 30 months, double it because you will need $2 million. That's how it is, always. You will never do good math. Everybody who says I only need 500K will need $1 million. So whatever you think you really need after doing all of your math, double it and then raise it. That's how much you need to raise. By the way, this data is very clear about it for many hundreds of companies or thousands of companies. You mentioned that it's very difficult to put exact numbers, but as founders, it's very good to have thumb rules. Right? We need to have some pointers to understand, hey, where exactly. Okay, now coming to some of the more important, interesting questions like valuation. Hey, time me, okay? Give me like last 10 minutes, last 15, whatever. So, valuations. Angel round, you can tell whatever valuation. It doesn't matter. Whatever you can convince the angel is whatever you get, because they do not have a rule that they are following. They are not answerable to an LP. So investors are not putting in their money. I hope you know this. The funds, angels are putting their money, funds are putting somebody else's money. The fund has a structure of general partner, partner and associates and all. So these people who are general partners and partners, they go out and raise the round to their fund. So if I run a $100 million fund, it means I may have put $1 million out of the 100 million. The 99 million is coming from somebody else. So that is who I am answerable to as an investor, right? So that once that is there, then I need to have a lot of rules that I need to play along. For a typical fund, the reason why I'm saying this is, you need to know what they are looking for so that you can tell them the right things. That is the way to close the round. If you don't know what they are looking for, you are just shooting in the dark, right? So the way they are thinking about it is, this is the math that they are doing. I am going to, so typically a fund raises X amount of dollars. That money is deployed over 3 to 4 years in about 10 to 15 companies. So 3 to 4 companies every year for 4 years, 10 to 15 companies. So if I'm a $100 million fund, I have to deploy 100 million in 4 years in about 15 companies. And out of every 10 companies that I invest in, 6 of them will fail, 0 money back. 2 of them will give me the money back, like whatever money I put in, or a little bit, 1.2x of that, they'll give back the money. One company will give me about 3x of what the investment that I put in. I put in $1 million, I get 3 million. Then there is one company that is going to give back the full fund back to me, which means all the 100 million will come from one company. So they are not trying to fund small outcomes. They are going with what they call as the power law. So they are always trying to come up with that one company that is able to give them a 100 million outcome. Now let's do the reverse math. If you are not following any of this, let me know, by the way. If you have to give them a 100 million exit, imagine that they have 8% or 6% of your company when you exit. How much you have to exit at so that they get 100 million? It's roughly into 15, right? About $1.5 billion is what you have to exit, right? So the question is, can you get to $1.5 billion in valuation? So if you want to get to $1.5 billion in valuation, in the current market, it is 6x of the forward revenue in US, let's say. So that means that you are at about $200 to $300 million in revenue for you to come at a 1.5. You can even be at 100 to get to 1.5 if your growth is good. But let's say 100 to 300 million revenue is what you are looking for. Now the question is, do you have a TAM that supports 100 million to $300 million in revenue? And this is what they are looking for in the market slide that you are presenting. So yesterday I was talking to somebody, they gave all the math and the total TAM was $66 million, right? There's no way they will raise money. There's no way. Because your TAM is 66 million, you are not going to saturate that TAM by yourself. Even Google did not have 100% of the search market, right? Amazon doesn't have 100% of e-commerce. Amazon has what, 20%? Right? A really good, well-executed company will have like a 10% TAM. Right? And if the Amazon is at 20, you know that you are not probably going to reach Amazon, so 10% is what you can hope for. So if your TAM is 66 million, the investor is doing the math, this guy is going to make $6.6 million in revenue, which means this guy is going to maximum exit at $36 to $50 million, and I won't get anything out of it. Right? So this is the math that they are doing, and you need to understand that math for you to present yourself in the right way. Valuation, once... Depends on your business. If you really think you can crack China, most investors won't believe you can, by the way, because it's very difficult. I mean, Elon Musk has cracked China. Who else has cracked China? I don't know.
Apple.
Yeah, Apple, yes.
That's
yes,
it.
of course.
That's it.
Yeah, Apple, Microsoft, excluding, I was more talking from a startup
Got it,
perspective, right? Elon just cracked, like Tesla, for example, they cracked, SpaceX, they cracked, like, things like that. But yeah, if you think you can really crack China, it is critical to your strategy, sure. And you should be able to convince the investor you can. Okay. You may learn Mandarin yourself and, So typically when it comes to a seed fund, they are, so I told the math, right? The company has to return full fund from you, which means that they need 10 minutes, okay. They need to have a valuation, an equity that they get from you so that they can get this $100 million outcome that they are looking for. And that typically tends to be anywhere between 8% to 16%. So if you are talking to a fund and going and telling them that I'll give you 2% of the company, they don't care, right? They need 8% at least. They pretty much always needs about 15% because they are coming at the seed round. You guys are going to raise another 4 rounds. Every round you will dilute 20, 20, 15, 10, right? 20%, 20%, 15%, 10%. Let's say if you dilute it that way, their 15% is going to come down to 12, to 9, to 7, to 6. So when you exit, they are at 6% unless they keep topping up, which typically does not happen. So about 6, 7% is where they are sitting on. Right? So that's why they have an ownership thesis at the top. Now, how do you define valuation? Typically, the easiest valuation, first of all, is you're grabbing it out of thin air. There's absolutely no way to value a company when you are 2 people and a dog, right? You cannot. So what you do is you pretty much, the easiest way to think about it is whatever is the round that you are trying to raise into 5 is your valuation. If you're raising 2 million, your valuation is 10 million post. You understand pre-money and post-money valuation? How many of you understand pre-money and post-money valuation? A few, not enough. Okay, you guys have to learn this, by the way. This is very, very critical in the fundraise because this is how much you are going to give away out of your company. Pre-money is the valuation that when you come to me, you are saying that my company is worth X dollars. That is pre-money valuation. Let's say that is at $8 million. You are saying my company is worth $8 million. That is pre-money valuation. Then you are saying, I'm going to raise $2 million. I'm like, I'll put the money. Okay. So 8 plus 2. Now the money came in. Now the valuation is $10 million. That is the post-money valuation. Now how much equity the investors are getting, it is 2 divided by the post-money valuation, not the pre-money valuation. Which is why investors always like talking in post-money valuation because they can be very definitive how much equity they are getting. If they negotiate on pre-money, let's say, they say, okay, I'll put 2, your pre-money is 8. If you raise another million from somebody else, now their valuation is 2 divided by 11 because you raised another million. So they don't have definitiveness in terms of how much is the equity that they are getting, right? Because of that, you need to always know post-money, pre-money, and always talk. You want to talk pre-money, investor always wants to talk post-money. Better to just talk post-money and get it done. So valuation, no questions, right? 5 times. Pull it out of thin air, keep pushing it hard enough that they get convinced. And what revenue? You are at 100K revenue. How do you do it?
Is it revenue based or only based on seed round founders plus whatever we are putting in the valuation?
Revenue is just an evidence that there is some evidence of a product market fit that's happening. That's all. Yeah. And the quality of revenue matters. If you generate revenue from enterprise, it is more valuable. If it is recurring revenue, it is more valuable.
Some people calculate 12 run rate of that current month revenue. Or that's
they don't know what they are doing. At the seed stage, if they are calculating your valuation based on the revenue, they don't know what they are doing. Run from them.
Okay.
Yeah, very clearly. 100K, there's no revenue to calculate.
So in seed stage, founders also considers a valuation?
Founders is the biggest valuation there.
Okay.
There's nothing else. 2 founders and a dog.
Okay.
Dog doesn't have value much. So.
Thanks.
Okay, I am on a time crunch here. I'm trying to pick the biggest one. Somebody asked about the slide. Who to raise from? Whoever gives you money. That's one. But don't raise from, jerks. People who are not good humans, don't raise from them. And you should know enough. I told about, how you qualify your investors. It's very critical that you do it. And there are really good ways. Imagine this gentleman wants to be my investor, right? If I go and tell him that, hey, I really want to get to know you as a human being. Can we go on a breakfast? Can we go on a coffee? Can we go on a hike? In US, we do that. Go on a hike. So if we do that, right, I actually command more respect from him because I am being very careful who I am bringing on the cap table. So as an investor now, he is thinking this guy is going to be looking at this way in the future races also. So I am signing up with a safer entrepreneur, right? So now my respect in his head is going up. But you go into the breakfast and talk less work, talk about everything else. Talk about, hey, which are the companies that did really well in your portfolio? And he'll be like, oh, there are these 5 companies that did insanely well. Second, which are the companies that really went sideways? Right? He'll be like, yeah, there are a couple, one here, one there. Can you connect me to the person who failed? And they'll be like, if they are like very hesitant, then you know that he has screwed the entrepreneur, right? If they are like absolutely happy to, then you know that's a good founder. He has investor. He hasn't screwed the founder, or she hasn't screwed the founder, right? But you need to do the qualification, because imagine they ask you to connect you to their customer. Why shouldn't you ask to connect to their portfolio? I tell every investor, if you want to talk to my customer, you have to do 2 customer intros. From your portfolio, if you can do 2 customer intros, you do that first. That you can take as references also. I will go talk to your customer, your portfolio, then you can take the inputs directly from them. And I get 2 customers, right? So unless they are willing to do the work upfront for you, why would you engage with them, right? So these are all, it's all part of that power play that I was talking about. The more you pull the power to your side of the table, the more leverage that you have. Okay, how many more minutes? 6 more minutes, okay. So who to raise from? Yeah, don't try to raise from good people. People is very important. Once somebody is on your cap table, it's almost impossible to get that person out of your cap table. It's very, very, very difficult. It's like a marriage, it's messier than a marriage divorce. So try not to get there. A bad investor can really make the life of a founder really bad. Just by calling at a dead of night, right? 8 o'clock, if the person is calling you, you already lost that night. You won't be able to sleep well. It's not worth it. We already have enough external battles that we are fighting every day with the market, customers, all of that. Internally, you don't need a battle with the investor. It's just not worth it. So it is much better to wait for the right person than not much better. It's always don't take money from a guy who already give you the money, but the person is not good. Always take money, wait until you get the best person. Not best person, at least a good person. Okay, pitch deck. How to tell your story. That is a masterclass, by the way. It takes 3 hours to explain it completely. But let me give you some homework and some ideas as to how to do this properly. The first thing you do is you go to Google and search for the greatest sales deck of the world, or something like. Just search. Google will find it. They are good at it. You will get a Medium article where somebody has written about a Zuora sales deck. Zuora is the greatest sales deck ever written, or something like that. And search for Zuora, Z-U-O-R-A. Zuora came up with this really amazing storytelling line, which was really interesting. And although they talk about sales deck, it's equally important for investor deck. Think about your investor deck as a hourglass. How does an hourglass look? Right? It starts at the top, comes to the middle, constrict, and kind of opens up, right? What that means is, in Zuora, what happens is you have to start with a trend in the world that everybody will nod along with you. Software is eating the world. If you told that 10 years back, people will be like, yeah, that is kind of true. SaaS is taking over on-prem. People will be like, yeah, that makes sense. E-commerce is growing like crazy. Yeah, that makes sense. AI is the next big wave. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. So there is a big trend in the world that you have noticed. That is the first slide. The second thing is, because of that trend, there's a problem that is happening. That is a problem that you care about. AI is really the hype. The inefficiencies that are happening in the sales space is insane. That is the problem statement. The way to solve that problem is by using AI in sales in this way. That is the solution slide. What we do is X, one-liner. That is the 4th slide. The reason why we are the best team to do it is the 5th slide. This market is insanely big. That is the 6th slide. So it started at the top. It kept coming down, right? Big trend, problem statement. What is the solution? Who exactly are you? And the market opportunity, the team. So now it's really focused on your company. Now open it up back. Where are you going to go? What is your current traction? Where are you going to go? So, you're looking futuristic. So it starts to open up. 2024, we are going to do it. 2025, we are going to do it. 2026, we are going to do it. And then it opens up. What is your vision? It's actually not exactly an hourglass because the top is more lengthier, the bottom is not that lengthier, if you know what I mean. It means that the vision slide need not be like equal to the top, right? It can be one slide also, but give them something that the promised land, right? Here is the promised land that we can take you. Jeff Bezos in 1994, he went to the investor, and I've spoken with the investor who put money in Jeff Bezos the first. The sentence he told was, in 20 years, everything will be sold online. Whether it is a car, whether it is a fridge, whether it is a pin, everything will be sold online. That was his unique insight, the promised land. And the investor was like, this guy is crazy, but I'm going to put money. Because they're looking for the power law, right? If this guy succeeds, then I'm going to make so much money because they are going for the power law, right? So that is what a slide deck is about. Now, you can put the problem as the first slide, you can put the solution as the fifth slide, doesn't matter. If your team is the biggest, my first company, team was the second last slide because there was nothing, 23-year-old, there's nothing, your team is like, yeah, okay, so we have some people, that's all. Second company, it was in the middle. We were like, okay, this guy has done one company, exit, blah, blah, blah. Third company, it was the first slide because, that was we raised at the idea stage. So there was nothing other than the founders. So depending on how you want to craft the story, you can change the things inside the deck. But by and large, you need to have a flow and a story. And the story is this, right? There's this huge change in the world, which is creating this thing in this specific domain. This is the solution, this is how we do it, here is the best team because we have been there and done that, blah, blah, blah. That's the storyline. Again, I took like a 3-hour thing and told that in 3 minutes. How many more minutes or is it done? 2 more? No, I can be done, unless anybody has a question. How much to dilute? Yeah, so in every round, the thumb rule is dilute between 13% to 20%. Right? Don't try to dilute less than 13% because the deal might not happen. Ideally, it is 15 to 18%. Don't try to go beyond, try not to go beyond 20%, but if 20 instead of 20, it becomes 20.7, 20.3, doesn't matter, right? In the grand scheme of things, whatever little change that you make in the first round wouldn't matter. Airbnb, Brian Chesky actually raised the first round with insane dilution. They also went through Y Combinator. If you go to Y Combinator, you are already going through like 7%, 6% dilution right there, right? Does not matter. I went through Techstars with my second company. I also gave 6% to them. Did not matter when I exited. Either this is going to be so big that you make 400 million to 500 million. Yeah, 100 million is the difference, but it's not like between 400 and 500 million you are going to buy a G5 jet or something like that, right? It's fine. If it is not going anywhere, then anyways it doesn't matter. It's zero. So either way, it is fine. So yeah, value, that's until Series A, that is your thing. See, after Series B, it kind of comes down 10%, 12%, 8%, 6%, all of that. One last question? Okay, one last question. Yeah? TAM, oh, very interesting question. There are 2 ways to calculate TAM, top to bottom and bottom to top. Let me explain. There are 7.3 billion people in the world. In India, there are 1.3 billion people. Out of the 1.3 billion people, 50% is women. And women spend whatever, total of $200 to $100 a month. So our market is whatever, right? So that is the top to bottom kind of a market. So that's one way to do the TAM. Most of the founders will be doing the TAM. We are going to take 1% of the market share, and the market is so big, right? That's typical. All of your slides will pretty much go in that direction. And that is fair because you are a first-time founder. That is the kind of visibility that you have. But the ideal way in which you do a TAM is the bottom-to-top analysis, which is like there are 3.4 million people in Kerala. And in Kerala, in this particular fashion brands, people are spending $50 a month. And for our product, they are going to spend $2 a month. So 1.75 million into $2 per month is how much our TAM in Kerala. And from Kerala, we are going to get to South India. And South India is 1.75 into 2 into 4. And then we are going to get to India, then to Southeast Asia, then to the world. That is the bottom to top funnel. The bottom to top funnel is much better because that is putting you at the ground versus, nobody believes if you say that the total market, the customer support market is 33 billion and I'm going to take 1% share out of it, right? Nobody will believe that. Versus if you say that there are 5.5 million companies in the US with more than 5 employees, there are 60,000 companies in the US with more than 250 employees. And out of the 60,000, 40,000 are B2B. And out of the 40,000, people have on an average 100 people in the customer support thing. Every user is about getting $50,000 paid. And I want to charge $1,000 per year. For every support engineer. So in total, there are 6 million support engineers. So my TAM is 6 million into $1,000. I'll give an actual example. Manny Medina, who recently moved out of Outreach CEO, here is Manny's TAM. There are 24 million sellers in the world, and I will get $1,000 each from one seller. So my TAM is $24 billion. This is Outreach.io's TAM. Manny talks about it this way. I don't know where he found the 24 million. I think there are only 6 million sellers in the world. But that's one way to think about it. Cool. Yep, over to you.
Thank you so much, sir. It was such a great session. Definitely the crowd says that. It was such a great session. Thank you so much. I kindly request Ms. Anjana JS, who leads early stage funding at Kerala Startup Mission, to give a small token of our gratitude and appreciation to Mr. Arjun Pillai.